Hi, how you doing? Dan here, Zapp Laser Studio. Obviously not at Zapp Laser Studio right now. Thank you very much for coming on this and joining me. Hopefully it will be of great use to you, just as a source of information, if nothing else. So we're not open at the moment. We are hoping to reopen again on the 4th of July, but the next few days, I think, are going to give us a lot more information on whether that's going to be more certain or not. So depending on obviously the situation with the pandemic and how that's going, if it's in line with the government's expectations or not, they will then determine whether actually, yes, we will be reopening on the 4th of July, or whether it's sooner, which I doubt, but it might be. There's a lot of pressure being put on the government by companies, hairdressers in particular, wanting to go back to work sooner and open their premises sooner. If that happens, then we are in line with that. So there's a chance we could go back sooner. But realistically, it's going to be probably around the 4th of July. It all depends upon this track and trace system that the government are rolling out from today as well, as to whether that works and what impact that has. So we'll see. If you are one of our clients or potential clients and you are subscribed to our mailing list, all updates will be on our emails. If you're not and you'd like to be, please drop me an email. Let me know you'd like to be signed up. And our email address is info@zapplaserstudio.co.uk. And then we can add you to our database, to our mailing list, just so that you're kept up to date. There's always useful information on there as well. So, what are we doing today? So today we're going to go through a few questions that have come in, some quite interesting ones actually, and then we're going to have a little look at a case study as well. It's a chest piece. It's on our Facebook page. It's this chest piece that the client, I think, is in a little bit of two minds at the moment. So may want fading to cover. This person has other tattoos. They're not averse to tattoos. They like tattoos, in fact. So they may cover it or they may get rid of it. But obviously with fading for a cover up, it completely depends upon what's going over the top as to what we need to achieve. So we'll start to get an idea of that from the client as we go through. And then just a few little updates from me as well. So one of the questions that keeps cropping up is scarring. Scarring is always a concern for clients, for potential clients. And that is mainly because of old technology and horror stories. Old technology, old lasers fire very slowly. They use a lot of heat and a lot of energy. Those lasers are fired into the skin. That energy stays in the skin for a long period of time. It's released very slowly. The tattoo feels like it's burning for days. And that carries an incredibly high risk of scarring. As technology has improved, as it's advanced, the risk of scarring has got lessened, but it's also a unregulated industry. So that means you do have people that are buying lasers online, maybe not good ones, maybe they are buying good ones, but maybe don't have the correct qualifications and training that they should have. So therefore, old lasers plus people that possibly aren't so highly trained and skilled, then again, it's using wrong settings, there's a higher risk of causing that scarring. Now with our laser, with a PicoSure, that energy is delivered incredibly quickly. It's released in a picosecond into the skin, and it's released from the picosecond out of the skin, which means that the risk of scarring and skin damage is incredibly low. That's why we say it's one of the safest lasers on the market for tattoo removal, because the energy is delivered really quickly and it's released very quickly from the skin, so it doesn't hang around and cause damage to the cells that contain the ink, but also it doesn't use heat. Although the actual sensation is one of heat, that's the pressure waves that are pushing through the skin and the friction that those pressure waves are creating as it goes through and hits the ink. So it does calm down. It can take a couple of hours to calm down. It depends on the size of the tattoo, really, as well as the location, as to how quickly or slowly that would calm down. But because of that, the risk with our laser is incredibly slow. But we still have to say there is always a risk of skin damage, but we carry out such a thorough consultation. We also carry out a test patch 24 hours, at least 24 hours before we carry out any full treatment, so that we get an understanding of any potential risks, but also any adverse reaction that happens before we carry out the full treatment. So the risk of scarring with our laser is incredibly low. Another one that came in actually was around, can we treat parts of a tattoo whilst avoiding others? So there was one that came in that was starting to have a cover up. The ink underneath needed to be fading. The tattoo on top needed to be in place. Now the tattoo on top was just line work at this stage. Tattoo underneath wasn't. If we are treating sections or trying to treat underneath or around, another tattoo, can be possible, but it depends on the intricacy of it. Also, basically what we would do is we would use a white eyeliner pencil. Now, you may or may not know that lasers are not attracted to white because it's not a color in the spectrum of light. So therefore, we use a white eyeliner pencil, which basically acts as a barrier and blocks any reaction taking place between the laser and the ink. So we would use that to go over any ink that we don't want to treat. And that is fairly accurate, but it's only so accurate because it's down to human error. We're operating the laser, we're operating the pencil that covers the ink, and we can be as thorough and as careful as possible, but there is always a chance we might hit that ink. Or if we're doing one treatment, less of a chance. If we're doing 8 treatments and we're marking it out every time, that's 8 times the risk versus 1 times the risk with one treatment. So it depends what we're trying to achieve and what we're working with, but normally we can block out parts of a tattoo to treat other parts, and do that very carefully. So that is an option, but again, it depends on the individual, the location, and the tattoos that we're working with. Another question that's come up again a few times this week is around sun tanning, and the weather is amazing, and why wouldn't you want to be in the sun? And especially, we've been cooped up for so long now. The problem is there is always a risk of hypopigmentation with tattoo removal. Now, hypopigmentation is the removal of pigment from your skin, the melanin from your skin. Now, that risk is greater the darker your skin type. So as you go through the skin types, it gets more of a concern the darker your skin goes. That means that if you have a suntan, that risk of removing pigment from your skin permanently is real, is high up there. That risk is very high. So we will not treat you if you have a suntan or tanning products in the area to be treated. It's as simple as that. We can't, because we don't want a white mark permanently where your tattoo was. It's just not worth the risk. So because of that, you may not be able to start treatment as soon as we reopen, because we've had such beautiful weather that you might need to wait until after the summer. And who knows how long this summer's going to last, or this spring is going to last. So it's up to you. Some tattoos are very small. They're in locations that can be covered very easily. Great. Some people will put on large waterproof plasters. Great. Some people will rely on sunblock. Now, that depends on you, because you've got to apply it at least 45 minutes to an hour before you go into the sun, and then you've got to be reapplying it every 45 minutes to an hour, because it's a chemical product. It takes time to work and it wears off. So you've got to be really regimental about its application. And I would say for most people, that's not really an option. You're better off covering it or just waiting until after the summer. But I have seen a guy this week who I've been speaking to or emailing, and he's done an incredible job of covering that tattoo with sunblock. So much so that you can't even see the tattoo underneath when he's got the block on. Brilliant. And you can see the white mark around that area. So obviously this person is incredibly keen to continue treatment, to start treatment. And that's it, really. It all comes down to, can you wait? Do you want to wait? Is this tattoo bothering you so much you want it gone and dealt with as quickly as possible? Do you have a tattoo booked in already that's going to do the cover-up that's in 6 months' time and you want to keep to that appointment? So, it depends what pressures you've got coming at you from the outside. But the question is, what's more important? I guess suntan or starting treatment right now. And for some people, that will be getting the treatment done as soon as possible, so they'll make sure to cover it. And for others it won't. Other people will just get a suntan, enjoy the summer, and then start again once all of this beautiful weather is over, maybe kind of October. You do need to wait a minimum of, it's different for every single person. We normally say it's around 6 weeks after tanning to be able to then treat you. But obviously that depends upon your skin type, how well you tan, how well you hold a tan, and how much sun you've had. Because if you've only been out once or twice and you've got a little bit of redness, and you normally fade, your tan would normally fade within a couple of weeks anyway, then great, we'll see you in 3 weeks, 4 weeks to make sure. If you are slightly more olive skinned and you only need to look at the sun to get a suntan, and that tan, well, you never really lose that suntan, it just hangs around for months and months and months, obviously we need to wait a lot longer. And for you, it would be much better to start your treatment probably around November time, because after 8 weeks, your tan is pretty much going to fade as much as it's going to fade. So I hope that clears that one up a little bit for you. So if there are any questions on this, anything that I've discussed, anything you want to know, anything at all, then please send a question through and I can get back to you on that. So tattoo that we're going to have a quick look at today. This is on our Facebook. Apologies for any glare. I'm not sure if you can see that properly or not. So this is a chest piece. It's quite large. I know that the client is considering a cover-up, not sure where to go with it, just doesn't really like this tattoo. And that's quite good sometimes when you're going into tattoo removal to have an open mind, because it depends on time, cost, pain, as to how far you want to go with things. Now, obviously, if you hate a tattoo, you never want another tattoo, then you're going for full removal. If, like this person, you've got many other tattoos, you love tattoos, and actually you just really don't love this one, then an open mind is good, because there's a high chance this person will probably put a new tattoo in that area, and one that she likes a lot more. So for fading for a cover-up, we normally say between 2 and 4 treatments, but it depends what we're starting with and what we need to end up with, basically. So, if something is going to go over the top of a tattoo that's really light and superficial, as in the cover-up will be light and superficial, we need to knock that tattoo back underneath to virtually nothing. If the tattoo that's going to go over the top is quite dark, then we need far fewer treatments, because that tattoo's underneath not going to show through once we've hit it probably 3 or 4 times. So it really depends upon what we're starting with and the desired outcome and what's going to go over the top. Now, this tattoo is a real mixture. We've got some really light shading around the outside. Sorry, I'm just looking at the iPad. Really light shading around the outside. We've got some kind of greeny blues in there as well. We've got some really light line work and some little bits of detail. And then we've got some quite heavy dark ink and some heavier line work. It's going to fade at all different rates. Immediately after the first treatment, it's going to look a bit smaller, because there's shading. I'm not sure if you can see, again, this is on our Facebook. There's shading around the outside of this tattoo that makes it look bigger. So once the first treatment is going to get rid of all that shading around the outside, and also any other shading, any light, superficial, delicate shading that's within the tattoo itself. So if you look at some of those flowers, there's just like tiny bits of darker ink amongst light shading. So they're going to treat very, very, very quickly. We're going to see, even though this tattoo looks really quite dark and bold, we're going to see some really good, really quick progress with that. We can treat that color as well. In fact, that color is so light and superficial. I would like to think most of that will disappear first treatment as well. So we are going to see a very big difference. Then we're chipping away at that medium kind of shading, the darker shading, chipping away at that. And then it's going to be that bolder outline in the kind of the tendrils that go off from the center. It's those bottom kind of tendrils, maybe the skull, the darkest elements of the skull, features of the skull that are going to take longer. Maybe some of these bits of flora up here, these leaves. It's like I say every time, we're very much governed by how a tattoo is applied as to how it removes. Anything that's deeper, darker, denser always takes longer to remove than something that's lighter and more superficial. So this is going to fade at all different rates, but we're going to see a big difference even after the first treatment. Now, it's a fairly large tattoo. First full treatment, I would split this into 2 halves, straight down the middle, 1 half. Now we treat the same tattoo, the same area every 10 weeks. When we split a tattoo in half, you can safely treat a different section after 2 weeks. But what we've discovered actually is that we're better leaving it. So we're better splitting that 5 weeks, treat 1 half, the other half 5 weeks later. And the reason for that is it just gives a bit more time for the body to process the ink and deal with that ink before we lump a load more ink into it and basically get it to deal with that. So split it into 2 sections, first full treatment. Half first treatment, 5 weeks later the other half, so that we're coming back again then to the first half after another 5 weeks, so 10 weeks in total. Now, second treatment, we may do the same thing, but there is going to be a lot less ink. So we may treat the whole thing in one go. The other reason we might do it or consider that at that stage is down to how it feels, how the client handles the pain. Now, again, this client is used to having tattoos and they know that, they can handle that pain or that discomfort. Some people obviously really like it. Tattoo removal is a slightly different thing. So to treat half of that tattoo is probably going to take about 7 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. So it is much, much quicker, but it's a bit more uncomfortable. So people describe it in one of three ways normally. Hot elastic band being pinged against your skin, mini electric shocks, hot fat spin against your skin. Now, some of those sound horrendous, but it's not. It's very quick. 99.5% of all of our clients have never really had a problem. That's not true. Probably about 98% have never really had a problem. Some people do find it uncomfortable. Some people do use a numbing cream, but we tend to try to not get them to do that. But most people can handle it. But everybody has a different pain threshold and a different tolerance to pain. So once we have carried out this full tattoos treatment in 2 halves, then we will know and the client will know and understand exactly how it feels. And they'll be like, either actually, let's just continue doing it in 2 halves because I do find it quite uncomfortable and the chest is quite a sensitive area. Or they might say, yeah, well, piece of cake, no problem at all, just do the whole thing. So it's that conversation that we will have with them after the first treatment. Now, because of the fact that it is quite a large tattoo, and after the first treatment, because of all that light superficial shading, we will there will be less ink to treat. We will reflect that in our costings and in our price. So if you've just joined us, if you just have a little look, that's the tattoo we're discussing. It is on our Facebook page. Much better way of getting a look at it on our Facebook page. But we will be treating less ink. So first full treatment on this one, on the tattoo, is going to be around £260 for that first full treatment. We would split it into 2 halves, and we're normally happy to work with our clients, and I would normally say to them, well, just pay me half, and then when you come in 5 weeks later, pay me the other half. It makes it more manageable. It's fair. After that first full treatment, and then we are treating the remaining ink. I can't tell you exactly how much ink is going to be left, and I can't tell you exactly the cost, but if it was that, we might be able to get the next treatment down to about 180 for the full tattoo. And then it's probably going to stay fairly consistent then moving forwards, because it's that dark ink that we're then chipping away at, because all that light ink, superficial ink has gone. And the progress we do make with some of that darker ink is going to be gradual over time. So it would stay then fairly consistent. But what I'm trying to show you on that is that we work with our clients to be as fair as possible, because we understand that this is an expense. Sometimes it's a big expense. Sometimes it's not such a big expense. But it's only fair because we price our removal on the amount of ink that we're treating. So we work with our clients on that. So once we've got the desired outcome, the client needs to then wait 3 months minimum before they can get a cover up. The main thought behind that is to make sure that it's absolutely healed, but also because the body processes the ink even up to 6 months. So some artists would say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to touch that until 6 months is up. And that would be absolutely fine. Our protocol from our laser manufacturer, Cynosure, states that we have to advise 3 months, but some artists would want to wait 6 months. So that's absolutely fine as well. And at the end of the day, why would you want to rush it? You've got to this situation, you don't know what you want, what you've got. You've been through a whole load of laser and expense over the course of maybe 6 months to 18 months, whatever it would be, whether it be fading or full removal. And then you rush into something and then you don't like it again. You're much better off waiting. Take your time. You don't want to get to the same situation that you're in again. So I think that's probably it. The only other thing to talk about on that would be payments. So if after that first full treatment, the client did decide, actually, I'm going to go for full removal, then we might discuss payment plans because it might be a bit better for that client. Payment plans, we normally do payments of treatments of 6 and 9. You get a 10% discount, you pay a deposit, spread the balance over 10 or 16 months, depending on whether you're doing 6 or 9 treatments. Most cost-effective way is buying a course of treatments up front, but obviously it depends on budget and current situation. So to buy a course of 3 treatments up front, you get a 15% discount, a course of 6, 20%, and a course of 9, 25% discount. At least then you've got all those options. You understand them. We can talk about that. We would talk about that in depth during a consultation. And some clients want to just dip their toe in and say, well, let's do a course of 3 after that and we'll see where we're at. Absolutely fine. If you're going for full removal, some people will just jump in with 9 treatments because you're only actually paying for 6.5 treatments out of 9. So that's a really big saving, 25%. So it does depend on budget and also what you are wanting to achieve. Okay, I think that's that one done. I haven't had any other questions come in today. So I'm just going to say we are going to be changing this slightly. So with the idea that people are starting to come out of lockdown a little bit, people are starting to go back to work a little bit, and that's going to happen more and more over the coming weeks. Businesses are starting to reopen. We need to start planning to really open our business, although we've done a lot of the background paperwork, policies, procedures, protocols, etc. already. We need to really start planning that now. And within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to start calling our clients, getting people booked in. I'm going to start doing these every other week from now on. So I'm going to be doing it on a Wednesday. It's not going to be on a Thursday anymore. It's going to be on an evening. So it'll be a Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be every other Wednesday. So basically 2 weeks yesterday will be my next one. I haven't thought to look at the date. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? But I think you get the idea. Check out the ads that go out for this anyway. And obviously I'll put a holding icon, thumbnail, etc. on our YouTube channel. So if you do think of anybody that you would find this useful, interesting, helpful, anybody that's got an idea about, I've had this for ages, I really don't like it, I want to do something about it, but I don't know where to start, then obviously get them to tune in. That's the first step. And if they like what they see and they like what they hear, then obviously they can send us a video via email, a photo via email or Facebook or Instagram, along with a short description of what they'd like to achieve. And I can get back to them with a video message with loads of information around the potential treatment of their tattoo. So, as I say, that's going to now be happening. It's not going to be on a Thursday from now on. Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock, moving forwards. And the first one will be 2 weeks yesterday. So, hope you have a good Thursday. Sun is shining. Make the most of it, unless you want your tattoo removed, in which case keep out the sun. I hope you have a great weekend. That's coming. Stay safe, and we'll keep an eye out for the next few days with the government's announcements and see where this leads us. But hopefully, we'll be reopening on the 4th of July. Stay safe. Thank you.